friends and family of Holtz Mordechai ben Baruch Leib Cohen, friends and family of Siggy Bessler, Shalom Shraga ben Dov, friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer ben Yisrael Aaron, a month of learning by Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her Michael Rachel ben Yehuda Leib, Chris and Michael Peretzky in memory of her father, Yaakov Yitzhak ben Feivel, Isaac and Eda Novik in memory of his mother, Miriam Gilel bat Chanoch Henach, Tova and Leo Zimmer in memory of her mother, Henya bat Reb Beryl, B. Pizer in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim ben David, Rabbi Avi and Lorraine Glatt in memory of Pacey Ackerman's brother, Chaim David Ackerman. Week of learning. In memory of his mother, Edna Sarah Ephraim Fishel Halevi, Beverly Hersko in memory of her father, Yisrael ben Chaim Tzvi, Iger in memory of her mother, Avet Anshe Yitzchak. And we have a number of days of learning today by Meir and Razi Tauber in memory of his mother, Esther, Miriam and Chazan Michael Schiffer in memory of her father, Nasan Yitzchak ben Cohen, by Ruth and Ed Goldberg in memory of her mother, Shandi bat Mordechai, and by Sid and Lynn Gold in memory of his father, Benjamin ben Eliezer. Hashem is having Aliyah, Krank Rafiel, Velti Yeshua, Tomal Aliyah, Rabbanei Israel, Krank Ben Shkia.
Okay, just two small points. Yesterday, then, to hopefully put us aspect of Gemara learning. That's one of four disciplines. In the universities, they're fighting out what's in between rhetoric and argumentation. We're not going to get involved with that. For us, it's a skill that everybody has to know, argumentation and rhetoric together. And we'll let the universities debate the differences. But the other skills are purely have to do with language, purely with logic, and even though logic overlaps into rhetoric and argumentation. And the last is knowledge. The second point, where do you go? It's just here. Anyway, yesterday about Yeush, I told you the Gemara really makes it sound like the person has to say, I lost the money. You know what I'm saying? But they were showing him right clearly. Tosas not, Ramban not. That's not the point. The point is the person was miyayish. He despaired of hope. It's not a question of a declaration like Hefker, for example. You have to say something. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's yesh el
So that's well to even to entertain. That's what I mentioned yesterday. Even to entertain the possibility. But today, in 1 minute, and why am I bothering? First of all, I just want to respond. But secondly, because in 1 minute, when we go to the second side of the page, it's going to sound like we're talking about that, but we're not. We're talking the second side of this page. We're talking about whether we know that the guy was miyayish or not. Did we get the information? Not a question of whether we heard him, so to speak, say the words, etc., etc. That's not what our Gemara is talking about. That's okay now. Okay, now to explain today, I want to give a little introduction because you have to really hold your hat on. Today is a real. It's a wild ride. It's not that it per se it wouldn't be so difficult. It's just so many details and components, it takes work to hang on to. So let's explain this. You remember we've been having an ongoing argument about what? We're having an ongoing argument about whether Yeush alone is Kona when it comes to a stolen thing. Unless perhaps when the owner despairs of hope, so the thief acquires the object at least to the degree that the object belongs to the thief and the thief only has to pay back money. Now, if you think about it, there are other ramifications. In other words, if I hold that despair alone gives the object to the thief, well, then two laws would appear to emerge from that. One law would be that, despite the fact, as we'll see in a second, that our Mishnah said that when one thief stole from another thief, that the second thief would not pay double payment to the first thief, namely because it wasn't from the house of you have to steal from the house of the owner, and it's not the owner, and it's not he didn't steal he stole from the thief, not from the owner, so he doesn't have to pay. He won't have to pay double. That's one thing. But the ramification would be if had the original owner given up hope, then the first thief would have acquired it, and the second thief would indeed have stolen from him the object, and would have to pay him, and they would have to pay double to the thief. That's point one. Point two is a very interesting point like this. Since our assumption is what? That we're going to assume that you have to pay 4 and 5 for what? For selling or for shefting. Let's talk about the selling. Okay, you can't say that a sale that's not a sale is a sale at first glance. So I have a big problem because if it's true that when the owner despaired, Well, if the owner despaired and then the thief sold the thing, he shouldn't have to pay 4 and 5. He already owned it because the owner despaired. So she'll come out a very interesting thing that it will come out that whenever if he's here, it comes out a very crazy thing. The thing he sold belonged to him. So what would be the case of 4 and 5? Ironically, he would have to pay 4 and 5 when the sale that he sells doesn't work. It has to be before the guy gave up. He pays 4 or 5 for attempting to sell it. In other words, he's selling it in name, but not actually selling it. It's a very weird thing. Okay, that's our implication. Now, we're going to talk about it. But not a time limit, but we're going to talk about it. I just addressed, you missed it. I addressed yesterday when I told you yesterday that later, I mentioned when you were outside, I just mentioned from yesterday that when the Gemara talks about Yeush today, it's not what we were discussing yesterday. Yesterday, we were discussing whether you have to say the words. He has to say the words. That's clear from Tosfos, the Ramban, you don't have to. Even though the Gemara B'Matzil, like I told you, sounds like you do, but the Rishonim say no. But yes, but what we're talking about today, it's going to sound, you're going to think that what we talk about today's page is what we said yesterday. It's not. Today's page, just know, did we get the knowledge that the guy gave up? Not whether we heard him say it or not say it. That's not the point. Okay, now. So in the sense, so there's two ramifications.
Implication.
Yeah, we have to know. Yeah, we have to know. Or we heard. Or we interviewed them. We are the witnesses. We all kinds of things. But just the question is, were we privy to the knowledge? So take a look now. But there's another permutation, and I want to tell you what that is. So it's quite possible that I could say that we're going to have a big fight. The law, even though it doesn't sound like it, one of the main fights is this law of the Torah of 4 and 5. Is it when you did succeed in selling, or is it when you didn't succeed in selling? In other words, I could say to you, every time I succeed in selling, it must be that I sold my own thing, the way we said it now. But I'll show you a way to say, no, there's a way to succeed in selling where I did not sell my own thing. I sold the owner's thing and I still succeeded, which I'll discuss in a minute. I say to you, no, Yeush alone doesn't acquire, but Yeush, despair on the part of the owner, and the transfer of ownership when you sell to the other guy, that succeeds. So it comes out now that you did succeed in selling. You did succeed in selling, but you sold the original owner's object, not yours. You succeeded because you sold and transferred the ownership. So the combination of the owner's despair and your transfer of ownership succeeded in selling, but you sold his thing and not your thing. So now we have, watch what we have. We have one way to say what let me try to explain this one. One way is that we say you only have to pay 4 and 5 when you succeeded in selling. But if you succeeded in selling, so you have a problem. How can it be if I succeeded in selling? Why should I pay? I sold my own thing. The answer is what? It depends. Depending on what you hold about despair, it could be that you can succeed in selling without selling your own thing. If I hold that despair alone does not acquire, I succeed in selling it. And I have to pay 4 and 5, but the object that I sold belonged to the original owner because it was his despair and the combination of me transferring it to the other guy. But if I hold the other way, I hold that despair alone acquires. So therefore, what the thing I sold is mine, and I wouldn't have to pay 4 and 5. And ironically, I'd only pay 4 and 5 before he despaired, and it comes out to what? Why am I paying 4 and 5? Not for actually selling, but for trying to sell, for trying to do the wrong thing, for attempted sale, so to speak. They don't use that word, but
selling
that's
the Brooklyn
Bridge. Exactly. Selling the Brooklyn Bridge. Now we'll have another opinion, which will be a hybrid, but it's only technical. That'll come at the end of today. We'll have a hybrid opinion coming later, which is like this. We'll have an opinion that says, listen, I believe that you have to pay no matter what. I don't care if there's Yeush or if there's not Yeush. Why? Number one, because I believe you have to pay for attempted sale. And secondly, I believe that successful sales happen when you sell the other guy's thing. Why? Because Yeush alone doesn't acquire. So I believe that the combination of his despair plus me selling has me selling his object, so I pay. And even when there's no Yeush, I still have to pay. Why? Because I attempted to sell. The Torah doesn't care. Whether you succeeded in selling, you didn't succeed in selling, you have to pay. All those are permutations. Now, why did I tell you that? Because this is information you have to hold on to. The Gemara is gonna squeeze this to death in 1 minute. It's gonna squeeze these points to death. And all you can do is repeat. Now I'm going to say one thing, but one more, and it's just because from pure love, I tell you, these kind of things. That's why talking and having a chavrusa and discussing things is so important. I'm going to give you a gift for free. It's worth $1 million. Talking to your friends is the best. I'm serious. It's the best way to become an expert. Why is that? Here, if you got to sit down and read a thing over and over again, you may get it. Maybe you won't. You'll get it better. You'll tell it over. Say it to a tape recorder. Do it. Who knows what? You talk to your friends. By the time you talk to your friend, you said it 15 times already. He said it. You said it. We said it better. You corrected. My brother and I. My brother was my longest term chavrusa. We learned. Thank God, we learned a lot together. A lot. So here we used to do it. One person would say it, then the other person would say. One person. We always had a rule. One guy would say outside, and one guy would look inside. So the guy says outside, one guy looks inside, and he's busy hammering the other guy. No, correcting the guy. Correct that. Then you do it. Then I do it. By the time you went back, four times each, you knew by heart. By the time you talked about it with everybody, et cetera, by the time you talk to 16 people, you become facile. Yes, and the things are in your tongue. I'm gonna say that's the fastest way. It's hard to just do a thing in your head. That's why Pilpul Chaverim, the talking to friends, is critical to learning, and it's one of the 48 things that we acquire Torah with. Like out loud. That's another thing, right? There's a brisa. The 6th chapter of Amos. It's not really. Amos doesn't have 6 chapters. It really only has 5. Pickup only has 5 chapters, but the 6th chapter they call the 6th chapter of Amos. It's really a brisa. It's another piece. But anyway, so and that the brisa lists 48 prerequisites for learning Torah. 48 prerequisites. What do you have to pilpul chaverim? You got to talk things out. And my rabbi, blessed rabbi, had an argument with another very famous with a very famous rabbi who held that the 48 were not all that you didn't have to have all 48 to have it. My rabbi held otherwise. He was very tough. He held if you don't have all 48 things, you don't have Torah. You must have all 48 to get it. But I'm saying, but this is one of those things. So talking out these kind of things, it's so much faster to talk to somebody. It's so much faster to talk to somebody than to try and bang it into your head by yourself. That's all. That's a little gift that's worth millions. What I just told you. Yes.
You have Deush, which is selling it on an installment plan, and he hasn't paid you yet. You have to do it.
So that we have to discuss. There's different. We're gonna come to it soon. We're gonna come soon. That there's several ways to buy things, and you're right. It depends. There's a way to sell that here. There's a way to sell that here. Let's say I'm going to sell to you for $100. So one way to sell is here. The first penny I pay you, the sale is complete, and I owe you $99.99. That's one way. The other way is what that I only acquired on the last penny. That's another type of sale. And every penny I pay you is a loan to you. Every penny I pay you, I'm lending. Yes, every penny I pay you, I'm lending you. And when I pay, and then finally, when I pay the last penny, it's all yours and that is mine. And then there's another way. I think in English they call it pro rata, if I'm not mistaken. Which is, I think it's called pro rata. What's not English either, but I think in our language we say pro rata, which means every penny that I pay you, I own 1 penny's worth. I own 1 penny's worth of the object. So I'm not lending. You're not. I don't know you. You don't. You're not. I'm buying it a penny at a time. Buying things. So there's 3 ways to buy things. We have this. Okay, so far so good. Hold your hat on. So I got to think. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. But I would think it's interesting. It could be. It's a good question. In theory, maybe I got to pay 4 or 5 on the part, etc. I don't even know. It's a good question. Those are good questions. Yeah.
With the money is not kind.
Oh, we have to talk about first. That's what we.
So you're talking if the Mashiach.
Yeah.
Or the star.
Okay, it's also a good point. Right. That's also a very good point. Okay, Rabosa, get ready. So now we're also going to try and put everything in the context. Okay. So up until now, we've had 2 opinions, whether Yeush alone acquires the object to the thief. And now we're going to have another opinion that Yeush alone acquires the object to the thief, but we're going to bring out the ramifications that I mentioned to you. Okay. Okay. So hold your hat on, because it's the Gemara is going to squeeze this to death. Okay, get ready. Okay,
where are you?
We are. Thank you. 5 lines to the bottom. 5 lines to the bottom. I'm a rock. That's it. Exactly. That's right. Right where it says right. It's 2 dots. Right at the 2 dots. It says Eina Gole Bachar Gana B'Shan Tashumiki. I mentioned that if one thief steals it from the other thief, the second thief does not have to pay double to the first thief. He has to pay it back for various reasons. One day we'll discuss. He has to pay him back because he stole from him. He doesn't pay double. And we said the simple reason is why he doesn't pay double. Yeah, because he didn't steal it from the house of the owner. Okay, he pays to the thief. But only one. But only one. He took it from him. The only one. Now, Amar Rav. Now Rav says, get ready. This is what I discussed you before. Rav is a person who holds like we learned earlier, that Yeush alone acquires the object to the thief. So therefore he says, what? Amar Rav, Lo Shanu, this law of the Mishnah that thief number doesn't pay double to thief number one is Elil Fnei Yeush, is only when he stole it before the original owner had despaired. Once the original owner had despaired, thief number two stole it from thief number one. So what happens is thief number one, Kanal Ganav Rishon. The thief number one acquired it, but Ganav Sheni Misham Teshlemi Kefil, the Ganav Rishon. Thief number two does have to pay double to the first one because it was really his object that he stole. Rav Sheshes says, he says, I can't believe that Rav said that. Amina Kinai B'Shachem Rav Amar Lashmai. So he must have been falling asleep. He's such a Talmid Chacham. If he wasn't falling asleep, he would have never said such a thing. He couldn't. I wouldn't attribute such a thing to him. Why? The Tanya, because we learned now he's going to bring a proof that what he's about to bring a proof that Yeush alone does not acquire. Get ready. The Tanya we learned in a Brayso Amar Rabbi Kiva ben Neimar Torah Tabacham Masham Tashlim Arba V'Chamisha. Why Rabbi Kiva was explaining what's the reasoning that the Torah told us that a person has to pay 4 and 5. Now, remember, I want you to be. I'll give the lecture later. Okay, why do you have to pay 4 and 5? Why does he have to pay more than he knows? Why does he have to add to the 2 that he might pay? Why does he have to add 2 more or 3 more? Okay, because the sin has become enrooted. Now, the way he's learning is what the sin gets deeper. Not only did you take it from the guy, you acquired it. Okay, you see how he's learning it? Not only did you take it from the guy, but you acquired it. Now, no. It even got worse. Not only did you take it, not only did you take it from the guy, but now you acquired it. Why are you paying 4 and 5? Because you acquired it. You deepened the sin. Not only did you take it without permission, now you deepen the sin and you acquire the objects for yourself. Okay, it's legalized. It becomes, so to speak, legalized or semi-legalized. Right? Thank you. Very good. You don't have to give it back, right? You can keep it. So you can't give
it back.
Wait. So you've deepened the sin. Okay, wait a second. But here in the one now, look. Why? Let's stay on. Let's keep our eye on the ball. He's going to prove that despair alone doesn't acquire. God showing you did worse. I'm going to make you pay more. But God doesn't need the money, so he makes you pay the other guy. That's what happens. Say Rabosai, what are you doing on Shabbos? What do you think you're doing on Shabbos? Having a good meal? A little bit, but really what's happening is you're honoring God. God's coming to visit on Shabbos. The Shina comes to visit. You understand? The Shabbos comes to visit. The comes to visit. So really what? You make a nice chicken for Hashem. You make a nice soup for Hashem. You make good gefilte fish for Hashem. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, Hashem, you don't need anything. Let me take care of that for you.
That's why you don't gain weight.
That's right. That's another story. Okay, so Hashem says, look, are you doing a bigger sin? I'm going to make you pay. But you need the money. He makes you pay the guy. I'm just teasing. Okay, so now, but the point is what Rabbi Kiva told us, why you're paying 4 and 5, because you've deepened the sin. Not only did you take it without permission, now you went and you acquired the guy's object, and you can't even get back his object anymore. Amos, okay, when is that? If you want to say that he's deep, it was before the original owner despaired. How did he make the sin any deeper? If you sell a thing that belongs to another guy, okay, it's not a sale. Changing domain alone, it doesn't sell anything. That's going to everybody agrees to that. Okay, it says you're forced to say what? So how did he deepen the sin? It was la'achar yeyush. The original owner gave up hope, and then he sold it. If the despair alone would have done the job to acquire it him, why does he have to pay 4 and 5? Since the only time he's going to pay 4 and 5 is because is after despair. If despair alone made the transfer, then whose object did he sell? His own. Okay, but he's selling his own thing and he's shechting his own thing. Okay, the opposite. He's shechting his own thing and he's selling his own thing. Therefore, what? It must be what? That despair alone doesn't work. And the only reason why he acquires it is because it's despair plus a change of domain, or it's because of the physical change that he made. He turned it into chopped meat, so that acquired. But despair alone doesn't work. Beautiful point. Beautiful raya. The beautiful raya. Okay, Amri, they said no. That proves nothing. You missed the point. Your interpretation of what Rabbi Kiva said is incorrect. You're right. If what Rabbi Kiva meant when he said that you deepen the sin is that you deepened it by acquiring the object, you'd be right, because you see that you only acquire the only way that makes going to make sense is after despair, and still you have to pay, which means what? That despair alone didn't do the job. He said, but you missed the point. Amri Kadama Rava. No, that's not what it means at all. It means what? It just means that he just was incalcitrant. He keeps doing wrong. He didn't succeed. It's before the Yehush, okay? So just like Rava said later about this brisa, that the meaning of that is what? That he just keeps doing wrong. He continued. He what? That he just continued doing wrong. So really when is it that you have to pay 4 and 5 before Yehush? Why is that to pay 4 or 5 before Yehush? Because he keeps trying to do wrong. You're right. He didn't succeed in selling it. But the fact that he tried to is enough that he has to pay 4 and 5. Incredible. So now, according to Rav, when do you have to pay 4 and 5? Specifically, what? Before Yehush, and you get it for being an ornery thief, a son of a gun. You keep trying to do wrong. But if after Yehush, you couldn't possibly be obligated for 4 and 5 because the thing that because it's yours. Once there was Yehush, it's yours. You don't need anything else. Toshma, again, we want to try and fight Rav again. How can you tell me that Yehush alone acquires? Utvarocho macharo. Okay, we learned in a brisa. He shechted it or sold it. Okay, so we learned matavicha. We learned that since these are learned in apposition, so the Torah compared these things either by smichos or by hekesh. We have to see. It says matavicha she'ena chazer. It's just like what shechting can't be undone. Once you shecht an animal, you can't undo it and make it alive again. Af mechir, you can't unshecht it, right? Af mechir she'ena chazer must be also what? A sale that can't be undone. Now, Amos, when is there a sale that can't be undone? If you want to say before the original owner despaired, he says, Amayna Chazeres. What do you mean it can't? Why can't it be undone? It never happened. It never happened. You can't sell another guy's thing. Transferring it to another person doesn't sell it. Nobody holds that. Elam, what it must be what? It means what? It's after Yehush. And after Yehush, we have stuff say it has to be a sale that can't be undone. Kanye, if you say that once there was despair, he automatically owns it. Why is he paying 4 and 5? You're right. That's a sale that won't come back. But what? He's shechting his own thing and selling his own thing. So you're stuck. So again, a proof against Rav that what you see that what that even though there was despair, he's still considered as having sold the other person's thing in order to pay 4 and 5. So you see what? Did he only succeed in selling because it was a combination of despair and what? And change of domain or changing the object, but despair alone didn't do the job. Beautiful. Okay, but knight to pawn 4 to pawn chess something. Okay, I got you, because you see that despair doesn't do the job. Says the Gemara, don't worry. He says, again, you're reading the language wrong. This is classic. Had the language meant what you said, you'd be right. It means that it can't be undone, like we said, but that's not what it means. The number of Nachman, it means this. Prat l'shehikna l'shloshim yom. Okay, it's not true. He says what? It's not saying that the sale has to help. Really, it's like Rabba said. What the sale that you sell, they have to pay 4 and 5 for specifically when the sale what doesn't work because there was no Yehush. What do you mean? So if there's no Yehush, what do you mean a sale that can't go back? It never started. What do you mean it can't go back? It doesn't have to go back. It never started. He says, no, that's not what it means. It means it means where his attempt was not to sell, but to rent. He sold it for 30 days. He rented it. Hanami here, too, just like we learned later, we said, except it's the exclusion of selling for 30 days renting, so to speak. Also here, what? The exclusion of selling for 30 days renting. In other words, the sale that he's not doing has to be a sale that if it were a sale, okay, would be a real sale. It's never going to be a real sale. Why? Because the guy didn't give up hope. But if it were a sale, I told you in South Africa, one incredible place, South Africa. You know, they did something unique. It never happened. South Africa had it's already 40 years already. South Africa had a whole country that became religious. It's unbelievable thing. Tons and tons of Jews who weren't observant became observant. Incredible place. Anyway, but even before those years, the South Africans were always very dedicated Jews, even the ones who weren't observant. So I remember years and years ago, meet a South African. He said, "Listen." He would tell me, son, I was a kid. He says, I want you to know, he says, The shul I don't go to is Orthodox. Yeah, my shul that I don't go to shul, but the shul I don't go to is Orthodox. He used to say. They would live Fox, exactly. Really, but the act of God. But was a couple of guys there. A couple of guys got it.
The chief rabbi.
No, wait, no, he's too young. He's way too young, way before his time. A couple of guys got it, and South Africans are they're extremely organized and bright people. And a couple of activists got together and they turned the country around. That's really what happened. That was Rabbi Tatz in his time, and there were a lot Rabbi Mafsin. There were a lot of guys down there in that time. Like Rabbi Shane. There were a couple of people who were just monsters. They were monsters. There were some big people had come. Rabbi Sternbach had come down, etc., etc. What really happened was a couple of guys got it. And once they got it, here, you want to know how incredible they are? In the modern world of Kiru, here, what's the one subject you don't talk about? You want to take a non-religious person and make it religious? The last thing you talk about is family purity. That's the biggest turnoff. The last thing, if you want to make people religious, just keep that, save that for the last chapter. Don't talk about that. In South Africa, when I first came there, one of the biggest Kiruv organizations, you know what they did? They took couples who were absolutely not religious and taught them the laws of family purity. Go only in South Africa you do that. And listen, this one guy, I heard this from the guy's mouth. The guy's not religious. His wife's not religious. They're in university. They're not nothing. They're going to learn because they're about to get married. They're learning the laws of family purity and all the details, etc. And the guy tells me, this is weird. This is really strange. He says to the teacher, he says, Rabbi, look, this is too weird for me. I can't handle it. The guy says to him, okay, I get it. I'll tell you what. Why don't you do it for 7 years? If there's a problem, come back. So I think, who would say such a thing? And the guy did it. He says, okay, 7 years, I'll try it. I heard it from the guy's mouth.
Among the Sephardim, that's the last mitzvah to go.
Yeah. They held on, exactly. They held on. Yeah, they held on.
We have a pasuk in Kisei.
Yeah.
Kimat say ish konev nefesh miachad b'nei Yisrael v'samer bo charo.
Yeah.
Umeis hakanav hahod. Now, in a situation like that, you kidnap somebody and you sell him. Really, there's no yeush.
You could have written the Gemara. It's coming up in a few lines. Just stay tuned. Come on. You wrote this Gemara. Tell the truth. Come on. Stand up and admit that you wrote this Gemara.
No, but he did look at it.
You wrote this Gemara.
I did not look ahead. It's my voice for saying.
I believe you. You wrote this Gemara. Well, good for you. You wrote the Gemara. The Gemara's going to say what you said. 1 minute. In a few minutes. Yeah. The Gemara's going to say what you said. Good for you. You really, seriously, good for you. Okay, Macy. So the Gemara, so therefore what? So we still answer, so we still have this standoff. One group's going to say what? That Yeush alone is not Kona. Yeush is Kona. And the only case where you pay 4 and 5 is when? Is Dafka when you didn't succeed to sell it and you're being punished for trying, okay? And so to speak, I'm just playing to the jury here. And the other opinion says no. Obviously the only time you have to pay 4 and 5 is where you sold what didn't belong to you. And since that could only happen after Yeush, you see Yeush alone didn't do the job, okay? It didn't do it because before Yeush you certainly can't sell it. The only way you can sell is after Yeush, and if it's after Yeush and Yeush did the job, you sold your own thing and there's no problem. Macy, again, we want to come and attack Rob. Now get ready. This is hard. There's 3 cases in this brisa. And this is what I told you about talking to your friends. If we don't talk this out, it's hard. But watch, there are 3 cases. Get ready. Macy, we learn. Case 1. Ganav, if a guy stole and a second guy stole it from him, the first thief has to pay double payment to the owners. The guy caught. And the second guy pays only what? Only the principal to the first thief, but he doesn't pay double. Case 2, he stole it. The first thief stole it and he sold it to a second party. And then a third thief party stole it from a third party who's a thief. A third party, right, who's the second thief, stole it from party number 2, okay? From number 2. Now the first guy's going to pay 4 and 5. Why? Because he sold it, okay? And the second thief, is going to pay double payment to who? To the buyer. Now that's what that, you realize that has to mean that the buyer actually succeeded. I'm just pointing out in acquiring it. Okay. Case 3. Gone of a tabach, a guy stole it and shechted it. And then a second thief stole the meat, so to speak, from the first thief. You're right, who shechted it. The first one is going to have to pay what? 4 and 5. And the second guy only doesn't have to, only pays what? Only pays him double. But again, you see what it has to be that the first guy acquired it. Yeah. Okay. Pardon me. I said the other way. He does not pay tashlumei kefil. Right. Does not pay double. He only has to pay what? He only has to pay the principal. Now, Tani Mias. Now, in all events, we learn. Look in case number 2. In the second case, we learn Ganav Umachar, if he stole it and then he sold it, Ubachar Ganavo, and then a second thief stole it from party number 2 who bought it. The first guy is going to pay 4 and 5. And the second guy, the guy who stole it from the buyer, has to pay the buyer double. Amos, when is that possible? Okay, how can the first guy have to pay 4 and 5? If you say what that he sold it before abandonment, why? Right. If the first thief stole it before the original owner gave up hope, okay. Shani, why is the second thief? Why is the second thief paying double payment to the buyer? The buyer never bought it. Does anybody in the world really transferring domain without any abandonment works? The first guy never sold it. If it was before Yesh, the first guy never sold it to the buyer. The buyer never owned it, and certainly the thief is not going to be paying. Is not going to be paying the buyer. The buyer never owned it. What are you doing? It must be that case is what it must be that the reason why thief number 2 is paying the buyer is why, because the buyer bought it, because it was after abandonment. If you tell me that the abandonment that made the sale to the buyer work, it acquires on its own, then why does thief number 1 have to pay 4 and 5? He sold his own thing. What'd you do? Okay. Why? But he's selling his own thing. So you see a proof against you, Rob. It must be what? That really, yes, it was a successful sale. It was a combination of despair and transferring. So he sold really not his own thing, but the object of the original owner. So you see a proof against you, Rob. The 2, and that's not all. I have another proof against you from the same brisa. The first law, the Katani Ratio. Look at the first law. We learned Ganavu ba acher ugnavo. He stole it, and a second guy came along and stole it from him. Harisha Mashal Teshlumi Kefal. Guy number 1 gets caught. He pays double payment. Okay. Vasheni ein Mashalim Elakaren. The second guy pays only. Okay, only the principal. 1 second. I just proved to you from case number 2 that there's no way to understand this brisa except that it's after Yeush. Well, if it's after giving up, okay, then what? If it's after giving up, you yourself, Rav, told me if the thief number 1 was stolen from by thief number 2 after the owner gave up hope, then what? The thief number 2 does have to pay double. Why? Because it already belongs to thief number 1. We already proved to you from case number 2 that the brisa is talking after Yeush. According to you, abandonment alone acquires the object to the thief. Then why is thief number 2 not only paying principal? You should pay double. Okay. No, you must hear from both of my shotgun blasts that what? That abandonment alone doesn't work. You see, I'm right and you're wrong. The kasha l'Rav, okay, that's the difficulty to Rav. Rabba says, okay, and this is and this is classic. Remember, Bryce's some Bryces everybody accepted, but Bryces were always suspicious. A lot of shoddy Bryces going around. You know, seeing a lot of anyway, says. So what do they do? So it's called Meshabeshta. It's called Meshabeshta. Meshabeshta means what? The thing is corrupt, a corrupt brisa. Yeah. Now what does that mean? It means that that they knew, and that's why they fought. If you remember, not everybody would accept the brisa. Remember I told you that's why a lot of times it's not such a crime that brisas, all these things. Why? Because here not every brisa was in the canon of brisas, not every accepted brisas. Every brisa. Here, yes, not everyone. Rabbi says what? He says, I'm going to show him, but he's not really going to what? Isn't going to make a wild claim. I'm going to show you that you're right. What you asked me is good, but only because this price is corrupt. And first, I'm going to show you the price is corrupt. Once it's corrupt, since you're stuck, I'm going to fix it, and it's not going to be a problem to me. I'm going to correct it. Amar Rabba, he says what? Tizbara, he says, come on, does it really make sense the way you read the brisa? You really think this brisa what is non-corrupt? It's a satisfactory brisa? He says, I'll show you that it's not. Because now you yourself just set up the whole thing is after Yehush, and you showed me that everything's against me. Look at case number 3, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We learned in case number 3, that's what he's saying. Yeah, case number 3, a guy stole it or shechted it. And then somebody else came along and stole it and stole it. Pardon me. He stole it. He shechted it. Somebody else stole the meat from him. You told me the rule is what guy number 1 has to pay 4 and 5. The second guy only pays principal. 1 second, he says, 1 second. Everybody in the world agrees that when you shech the thing, that powerful physical action, the powerful physical transformation, everybody agrees that acquires. Nobody's fighting about that. Everybody agrees that acquires. So you see what it acquired, and yet the thief number 2 is only paying what? He should pay double. You see this brisa makes no sense. Ella, he says, there's only one way to fix it. Now, here's what he's going to do. He's going to reverse. He's going to keep the cases, and he's going to give law number 3 to case number 2, and law number 2 to case number 3. He says, this brisa got mixed up. He says, okay, so you're going to transfer the law of case 2 to case 3 and the law of case 3 to case 2. He says, the brisa, don't worry, everything's fine. Not like you said. The brisa is before yesh. Everything is final. The ipuch, and I'll explain to you, Sefer l'mitziasa, change the law of case 3 to case 2. Mitziasa, law of case 2, the sefer to case 3. Now let's read the brisa together. Okay, let's learn case 2. If a guy stole it and sold it, and another guy came and stole it from the buyer, the first guy has to pay 4 and 5. Why? Because I hold that's dafka when you pay 4 and 5 when you didn't succeed in selling it before years. And the second guy only pays the principal. Why? For obvious reasons. Because there was no years. Everybody agrees that nothing happened. So it's beautiful. Case number 1, case number 2, perfect. Now he says, now let's look at case number 3 the way I'm learning it. And if he stole it and shechted it, and another guy came and stole it, and now what? He transferred the ownership by what? By change of action. Guy number 1 has to pay 4 and 5. Why? Why? Because he didn't shecht his own thing because it was before Yerush. And the second guy's going to pay double. Why? The Kanya B'Shina Maisa, because he acquired it when he shechted it. Beautiful. He says so. Now once you have to fix the brisa, instead of reading like that to force me that it's after Yerush and I don't make no sense. The only way to fix it is my way, and it's before Yerush, and everything is good. Okay, so he did a beautiful. So he's defended. Papa Mai says, nah. He says, I don't think. He says that is not a good claim. Your claim, what? Your claim that this price is corrupt is not a good claim. I'll show you. There's no reason to say this price is corrupt because you're ignoring a famous opinion. What is that? That's the opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai holds that change does not acquire. Okay, Papa Mai you can leave everything the way it is. And everything remains like it is after years, the way we said. You thought that the last case was contradictory? That makes no sense. The case number 3, how can it possibly be that the thief doesn't pay double when he stole the meat? Everybody agrees by that point. The meat has to become the owner. It has to be the possession of the shechter. Okay, because of the change. Seifa Beis Shammai. The Seifa is Beis Shammai. And the Amri Shita Mekoma, Beis Shammai does not agree that a change in action acquires. Okay, so you might say, therefore what? So therefore, he says, you don't have to say that. Now, 1 second. If I do that, then I revert back. 1 second. If you can do that, then we're reverting back to the Bryce when. The Bryce reads without changing. The Bryce is all after. The Bryce is all after Yeush, and we're stuck. If that's true, Yachim, then we're back in the fire again. Kasheration Mitzias Rav, like we said before. So the case number 1 and case number 2 are both a kasha to Rav. Don't worry. He says, I'll explain everything. The whole brisa is before This is what's happening. He says, here's what's happening. You're right. Originally, when the thief stole, when the thief originally sold it, the owner had not given up hope. And it's like me. When do you pay 4 and 5? Dafka, when your sale doesn't work. But pardon me, so I just mistranslated. He was misyayish by the buyer, but he wasn't misyayish by the thief. So what happened was, so the thief, when the thief sold it, there was no yesh. So as he has to pay 4 and 5. Why? Because he tried to sell it. Okay, it didn't work. And then once it was sold, the owner gave up. The owner gave up hope. So now when the second thief comes and tries to get it from the buyer actually did own it. Why? Because the first guy gave up hope, right? And it worked. Okay, the yesh. Okay, that's already yesh, and that works. So I can explain it. That's number one. Below tema. Okay, and now. Okay, and don't believe what. Don't think that the reason why he has to pay is only because it was Yerush and Shina Rishus, like you said. What after Yerush? No, he says what it was. What I feel Yerush L'Chudei Nami Kani Gani Gaba. The truth is that really what by the God of it would really work. What even just Yerush alone. I said if that's true, why did you teach me Yerush by the buyer? Why shouldn't you teach me the simple case? Teach me the Yerush work by the thief. He said, I'll tell you why, because we wanted to hit a home run pedagogical chiddush, which is what? El, I'm going to teach you what the because you're going to, in one punch, you're going to show me a case where the first thief and the second thief have to pay. The first thief's going to pay 4 and 5, and the second thief is going to pay double. When would that happen? The only case that happened was where there was no yerush by the ganav, according to me, because he made a failed sale and he has to pay, and there was yerush by the buyer. That's why second guy has to pay. So I gave you a case, a home run, where the first guy will pay double, and the second guy will pay. The first guy will pay 4 and 5. Second guy will pay double, even because the first guy requires no yerush and the second guy requires yerush. It'll be home free. Okay, good. Now we get ready for a hybrid. Okay, get ready for a hybrid. What's going to happen now? Up until now, we had the guy. We're going to have, even if we're going to have two people disagree with Rav, but we disagree with Rav. Two guys disagree with Rav and hold that yerush alone is not kana. But one agrees with Rav that even when you don't succeed in selling, you have to pay 4 and 5. Up until now, we had one shita. That's about to happen. Up until now, Rav, the opinion that we knew, the Rav, who held what? Who held that yerush is kona by itself, also holds that the payment for selling is when you fail to sell. Now we're going to have an opinion we're going to have two opinions that both disagree with Rav. But one of them is going to hold that, like Rav, that even when you don't, not only when you succeed in selling the owner's object, the original owner's object, you have to pay 4 and 5. But even when you don't succeed, you have to pay 4 and 5. Let's take a look. That's this opinion coming up. Each bar we learn. A guy sold the thief sold before the Balim gave up hope. Rav Nachman says he still has to pay. Why? Because we don't care. Rav Sheish says no. What do you mean? If you sold before yesh, you didn't sell. So there's not you didn't sell anything. How could you're not paying for it? If you didn't sell, you didn't sell it. You never sold it. Rav Nachman says you have to pay. Why? Machro or Machman, because the Torah said he sold it. Okay, but he sold it. The act of selling is obligated. I don't care what happened. Lo shana if it's before abandonment. Lo shana afterwards. So even right. So even though he doesn't agree with Rav, it doesn't matter. He doesn't agree with Rav, but he holds like Rav in the first case that the Torah said, I don't care what happens, you have to pay. Rav Sheish is on my part. Rav Sheish says no. Why? She says the only obligation for 4 and 5 is after the owner was miyash, and the combination of yerush and transferring, etc. Hanu ma'asav that you succeeded in selling, that's when you pay. But if you sold it before yerush, the hanu ma'asav, his actions did nothing. Lo mechav is not obligated to pay 4 and 5. Now, where do you get it from? Okay, where do you get it from? Why? Because it has to be, since the Torah put shechting and selling in apposition, they have to be compared to each other. Okay? The hanu ma'asav. So just like when you shechted, you did a good job. That thing's dead. It's not coming back alive a second time. Same thing, but the sale also has to be non-reversible. My father, blessed memory, in the rabbi business, unfortunately, over many years, people do a lot of funerals. So it's a gruesome job, but like any professional, eventually that's the job. You do it, and it's hard to speak it, and it's hard to speak at funerals. But people, if you're in the business, you learn how to do it. It doesn't mean you're unemotional, but you learn your job. So my father told me that one time he was at a funeral, and in America they have the funeral home, so they have the casket there in front, and the guys on the bima, speaking. They speak from the bima, and the casket is right in front of them. So they send the guy up. My father's sitting in with the people, and they can send the guy up who's not used to speaking. And certainly not even a person who's a good speaker. It's hard to speak at funerals. So the guy's nervous and hemming and hawing, yeah. And he looks down. He looks down at the casket. He looks up at the crowd. He looks down at the casket. He looks up at the crowd. He says, "Mrs. Goldman is dead. No doubt about it."
She's not coming back.
So my poor father. It's so funny. He ran out of the funeral home because he couldn't control himself from laughing. Anyway, the thing here is this animal, once you shecht it, this animal's dead. It's not, there's no doubt about it. It's not coming back. So he says, since these two things are put in that position, either by the principle called heke or the principle called smoothing, there's two, it's an argument here. Okay, but one way or another, just like the animal's not coming back, it has to be that the sale is effective. It's absolutely effective. Just like killing it is effective, it's dead, and it's not coming back. Also, has to be effective. It's sold, and it's a sale. He says,
is never aware of the sale of the theft. I mean, he has a flock of 400.
We're going to talk. So we are. It's coming up. It's coming up a little. It's coming up a little bit here. It's coming up. And Yesh Shlomi Dashes itself. If he has no idea at all, that's another problem. It's going to come up a little bit now. You'll see. Okay. So Rav Sheshes says what? Minah. He says, how do I know that what I said is true? That it has to be utterly effective, and you're only going to pay 4 and 5 for a real sale where you succeeded, which has to be only after years. The Tanya, because we learned, I'm going to show you from the way Rabbi Akiva spoke. I'm going to show you from the way that he spoke. I'm going to show you that the sale has to be good. Why? Because he said, hey, why does he have to pay 4 and 5 for shechting and selling? Because he deepened the sin. The way we learned earlier, he succeeded. Not only did he steal, but now he succeeded in taking ownership of the object. He deepened the sin. So when is it true that he deepened the sin by taking possession? True ownership. If it says before abandonment, Mika and Ishtar, she doesn't succeed to make it any deeper. He doesn't own it. If it's before Yesh, even if he sold it or shechted it, if he sold it, it must be what? It's after Yesh, and he succeeded when he sold it. Now, not only did he steal it, but he also now owns the object and only has to pay back the money. So you see a raya. Rav Sheshes says a raya that the selling has to be what? Has to be a one that acquires it. It can only be after Yesh, and the combination of Yesh and the transfer of domain. Amarabro says that. Sorry, that's no proof. Like we said earlier, why? He says, Mipnei Shoshana B'ched. He says, your reading of Rabbi Akiva is wrong. Your reading of Rabbi Akiva is not, it's not that it got deeper, that he now acquired the object. It's just he's unrecalcitrant, I think is the word. He just keeps doing wrong. Now he stole it, now he tries to sell it. He's a bum. He's just a bum. That's enough. The double evil is enough to make him pay the 4 and 5. Okay, Toshma again, let's try and bring a kasha. Let's now try and bring a proof to Rav Sheshes. We want to prove that what Rav Sheshes is true, that you only pay 4 or 5 if you succeeded in selling it afterwards. Toshma, Utvacho Macharo says he shechted and sold it. So the Brisa says clearly, just like shechting can't be undone, there must be a sale that can't be undone. So when is a sale can't be undone? Even if if you told me before Yesh, the sale's not a sale at all. What do you mean it can't be undone? It was never done. It can't even, of course it can be undone. It's never done. So it can't be undone. Must be paid after Yesh Mamina. So here you see a proof to Rav Sheshes that the only obligation for selling is what is after abandonment. Again, like we also answered before, he said nothing, no win. You have no proof. Why? Again, because we can say what it means is what? Not that in truth it was effective, but the type of attempted sale has to be one that if it were a sale would be a sale and not a rental, not 30 days where he's going to get it back. So again, twice we deflected these proofs by saying what that the one who raised the difficulty had the wrong understanding of language that they were bringing to prove their point, and that's very very important. They have to be, that's what language is so important. Okay, okay now. Okay, so now, okay, again, okay, we want to bring more people who agree with Rav Sheshes. Okay, Rav Lazar, so also Rav Lazar holds I can show you. I'm going to bring a proof to you of Rav Lazar holds just like Rav Sheshes. Interesting enough, no, it's by an indirect proof. I'm going to show you that he has the same opinion that you're only obligated 4 and 5 when you succeed in selling it, but before Yesh, you don't succeed, you don't have to pay 4 and 5. Okay, you don't pay for it because you didn't sell it. Okay, the Amar Rav says Teda. Now, this is what we're asking. We want to have we for various reasons we want to know. Here, can we assume that somebody's given up hope? So remember, we mentioned this point earlier. He says, Teda, I'm going to prove to you, Shistam Geneva Yesh Balimu. I want to prove to you that even if we never were apprised that the original owner gave up hope, we never got the information. We still allowed to assume that he gave up hope. Why? Like we said earlier, because you don't know who stole it. I don't know who that took it. I'll never get it back. So we can assume that everybody gives up hope when somebody steals from them. That's stolen. Exactly. Why? Because the Torah told us the thing was stolen, and if the thief shechted it or sold it, you have to pay 4 and 5. What do you mean? Well, how can you automatically make him pay 4 or 5? You didn't investigate. How can it be unconditionally that they pay it? Maybe the original owner never gave up. Why does the Torah say unconditionally? You know that he stole it, he shechted it, sold it, make him pay 4 or 5. Why? So it must be if the Torah told me unconditionally, I can charge him the money. It must be what? That the Torah is teaching me that I can assume that the second the guy knows that it was stolen, he gave up hope. So now, one second. Okay. But the point is, what legally I have a right to go forward on that with that understanding. Now, what do you mean? But here's the real point. But from the way he spoke, okay, we can see that if let's say we had the information the other way, and we heard clearly that the guy never gave up hope, then for sure what? He wouldn't pay 4 or 5. So you see clearly that from the way that he brought his proof, he agrees with Rav Sheshes. That's the main point here. The main point was, but had we heard that he didn't give up hope, you would see he wouldn't pay 4 or 5. So we see the way he brought his proof is really what shows that he holds the same thing as Rav Sheshes. Says the Gemara. One second. Let me ask you a question. But how does Rabbi Lazar know that what he's saying is true? How does he know that that the Torah is teaching me? I said no. You can't say such a thing for the reason don't perish the thought. Why? Do me the tefillah like we brought the proof earlier. My and shechting were put in application. Tefillah dani myself, just like shechting works. Okay, it's effective. Mechir dani myself. That's what that this also works. Okay, before abandonment, mahano it didn't work. So therefore they hold that. That's their drasha. That's their drasha. One second. He says, 1 second, but still, okay, let's even take your assumption. But it says the Dilma, the Shamini Diash. Okay, maybe you only pay 4 and 5 when it's effective, but maybe we actually heard that the guy was Miyash. We got witnesses, we heard, whatever, we interviewed him, whatever you want. No, because the Torah can't be where we investigated and we got the information. It has to be that the Torah is talking about an assumption. Why? Because again, since selling and shechting were put in that position, since the halacha is the second the guy shechted, I don't have to do any homework. The second he shechted, I can charge him 4 and 5. Since shechting, I can charge him immediately. Must be also by selling, I charge immediately. So it can't be that I had to investigate. I had to go send out the paralegal. I had to go send a paralegal to go find out. Let's go find out if he gave up. It's not true. Okay, now let me a little more. Amalei Rav Yochanan says the following to Rabbi Lazar. He says, let me bring. Here's what I unfortunately left. I knew he was going to leave. He told me, but listen, tell him this is the Gemara that he meant. That you only are that you're not obligated to be punished. Okay, when you didn't succeed in selling, when a person kidnaps somebody. He has a death penalty, but for what? He has to kidnap and use the guy and sell him. He has to use them and sell them. You have to kidnap, use them, and sell them.
Enslaved.
Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to show you that sale doesn't work, and he gets point. Like definition, the sale never works. Why? He says, "Geneva b'nefesh l'chira." I'll prove to you that the Torah doesn't care. The Torah. Hope on himself. He'll keep fighting all his life to get free. He's not giving up hope on himself. He's not abandoning hope on himself. So you see, even though when you sell the guy, besides the fact you can't sell a guy, but that's not the point. But that's not the point. But when you sell him, he doesn't give up hope. So the sale, your sale of the kidnappee is no sale. Yet the Torah punishes you. So you see, the Torah punishes you for a sale that's no sale over there. So the same thing over here. The Torah punishes you for a sale. It's no sale. He says to him. That's what he said. Okay, he proved them. Okay, so the Gemara says 1 second. He says, okay, 1 second. Okay, nice point. But let me ask you a question. Says the Gemara, whoa, wait a second. Mechlal, but from the way Rabbi Yochanan asked, the sub Rabbi Yochanan lifnei Yehush chayev. So really, what Rabbi Yochanan really holds what that before Yehush, he's on the other side. He's like Rav and Rav Nachman. That what that before Yehush, even though the sale's no sale, you have to pay 4 and 5. He's lacha Yehush mai. What's his opinion after Yehush? Does he agree with Rav or not? Remember, I told you can agree with Rav before Yehush and still disagree with Rav after Yehush, and hold what Yehush alone is kana. So does he hold that the Yehush alone is kana? He doesn't pay 4 or 5 after Yehush? Okay, so Gemara says, Gemara says, I'll tell you, yeah, we have an explicit statement. He says, Rav Yochanan Amar, we have a quote, Chayiv. He says, what? After Yehush, he is obligated. In other words, what? He doesn't agree with Rav. He doesn't agree with Rav. He holds what the Yehush alone is not kona. And when you, after Yehush, you sell it, and the transfer of domain makes you sell the owner's object and not, you only have to pay 4 and 5. Reish Lakish said, no, Potter. Reish Lakish seems to agree with Rav. That what? That after Yehush, you're exempt. Why? Because after Yehush, automatically the thief owns it, and the thing that he sold is his own. Rabbi Yochanan says, why do you have to pay? You do have to pay. Okay, why? He holds like who? Like he holds like Rav Nachman. Like Rav Nachman, the obligation is before, and the obligation is afterwards. Why? Yehush, because before he says the Torah doesn't care whether it works or not, and 2, he holds that Yehush is not kona, and therefore afterwards the thing you sell belongs to the owner. Reish Lakish Amar Potter. Reish Lakish says no. He says afterwards you're exempt. Why? He holds like Rob that before Yehush you have to pay 4 and 5 for the attempt. But afterwards, after Yehush Kana, he acquired himself. He's selling his own thing. AC Rabbi Yochanan says 1 second. Let me ask you a kasha. He says to Reish Lakish, I'm going to show you that you're wrong, like we tried to do before. I'm going to show you that Yehush alone is not Kana. Gana v'higdish. Okay, no, not our brisa, another brisa. Sorry, a different brisa. Gana v'higdish. We learned if a guy stole. We had earlier, but not earlier today. I meant earlier. That's true, but that just makes me lucky. I happened to say the right thing, but I was wrong. I was wrong. Although I'll tell you something that I'll tell you something that will knock your socks off. There's an Aruch HaShulchan. It'll knock your socks off. There's an Aruch HaShulchan. Modern. He says that the Shulchan Aruch writes a din, and the Shulchan Aruch doesn't believe what he said.
The
Shulchan Aruch writes a din.
Mean it.
He for sure doesn't agree with what he wrote. He proves to you 10 times over that he doesn't believe.
Elsewhere in the Shulchan
in the Shulchan Aruch, in your day, he proves to him. Maybe listen to the Beis Yosef, but he proves that Shulchan Aruch does not believe what he said. Listen to this. The Aruch HaShulchan said, I would be scared to say such a thing. He says the Shulchan Aruch wrote it and he doesn't believe it. And from the Shemayim, they protected him. They made him write the right thing.
You mean he got it right for the wrong
reason? That's what I just said to you. I was lucky. I would never say such a thing. The Aruch HaShulchan says it. The place in your day says it. Anyway, he was not a stam guy, the Aruch HaShulchan, by the way. A lot of guys don't like him. A lot of guys don't like the Aruch HaShulchan. But one thing's for sure, he was, oh my goodness. He was not a regular guy. That's for sure. Not a regular guy.
He wasn't afraid to.
Oh my goodness. He was not he was just anyway. Okay. Let's get there. Let's get through the Talmud and we'll get to the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. So he says to him, listen, didn't we learn if a guy stole a thing and he sanctified it and then he shechted it, Mishal and Kefel, he has to pay double. Okay. He doesn't pay 4 or 5. Now let's understand. Okay. Amos, when is it that this law applies? If it's before Yehush, Mikadosh, how did he succeed in sanctifying it? The Torah says a guy will make his house holy. Ma beso shelo, kol shelo. You can't other than your house. You can't sanctify anything that's not yours. Just like your house is sanctified, which you belong to, you can't sanctify. Elapshita. So the whole Bryce is talking when Lacha Yehush he succeeded in sanctifying. Why after Yehush? Okay. The time of the Higdish. But the only reason is what is that after Yehush he was Magdish it. Why? Why is it that he doesn't pay 4 or 5? Because he shechted Hegdesh's thing, and it says Re'ehu by 4 and 5. By double it says Re'ehu. He has to pay his friend double. But 4 and 5 is always what? Is always a composite of what? Of double. It always includes the 2. So if the 2 is out, the 4 and 5 is out. But that's only because why? Because why? Because it's not Re'ehu. It's not at the Hegdish. But he had, even though it's after Yehush, because the only way he could have sanctified it was after Yehush. And still, even though it was after Yehush, the only reason it doesn't pay is why? Because it belongs to Hegdish. Okay, but if he didn't sanctify it, he have to pay 4 or 5. If according to you, abandonment alone, despair alone makes him acquire it. Why would he have to pay? Why is the inference that if he had not sanctified it, he would have to pay? He's selling his own thing, so you see you're wrong. He said, no. He says, you got the case wrong. You're going, you read it wrong. That price is not that the thief stole it and the thief sanctified it. No. The thief stole it and the original owner sanctified it. And therefore, afterwards, you see, afterwards. Yes. Wait, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. No, in other words, here, keep going. In the hands of the Ganav, okay, he sanctified it. Okay, he sanctified it, and it's before Yehush. And he sanctified it while the Ganav had it, and therefore, what? There's no proof. So don't tell me, it's abandonment of the job. No, the reason why it needs Hegdish is because it's before abandonment. So it's only because he sanctified it. Otherwise, he would have to. Otherwise, he would have to pay, like I say, because you pay specifically when it doesn't work. Okay, Mikadosh says, get out of here. What are you talking about? It never becomes sanctified. Rabbi Yochanan, even though it's his opponent, but this is an accepted opinion. Didn't Rabbi Yochanan say, don't we all agree that if a guy stole a thing and before the owner gave up, nobody can sanctify it. The thief can't do it because it doesn't belong to him. So this one because it's not under his domain, it's not in his control. Amri says no. Reish Lakish can answer. He says, and he says, that opinion, you're right. That's everybody else's opinion. But there's an opinion that holds that you can sanctify something when it belongs to you, but it's in somebody else's domain. Even when a guy stole it. Why? Where we learn it from? Because they were stewing with these very holy guys. You know that. I'm almost done. We're not going to be late. The first 3 years, you have a vineyard that all the fruit is what? Is Arla. Is Arla. You can't eat it. The 4th year, it's holy. You can eat it, but you have to take it to Yerushalayim and eat it. If it's too much, you can redeem it and take it to Yerushalayim and eat it. But either way, it's holy. You can only, and if you eat it without redeeming it, you're transgressing. These guys are such holy guys that what? They know that they have a field full of the 4th year fruit, and it has to be. Nobody can eat it without redeeming it, and they know people are stealing their fruit. People are stealing their produce. They say, you know what? So he takes a coin and he says, you know what? Hashem, whatever they steal is redeemed on my coins. I'm going to make sure that the thieves have kosher food. And so they're doing. These are holy guys. It's not. But so you see what? But you see that they hold what? They hold that you can manipulate sanctity when it's not under your control. As long as you own it, but it's not under your control. In the hands of the thief, you can manipulate it. It's not because we learned that snuim menichin esamos. They put money to the side. Roman, they say Hashem. Everything that they pick and they stole from me, I'm redeeming on my money so that the thieves have kosher food. So you see, therefore, what he says, even though, so I can defend myself by saying this is according to the unique opinion that you can manipulate holiness out of your control. And this will be what a page.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big page.
Yeah. As the thief was taken. So it's still in.
That's interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
That's how I learned.
No, I don't think you're learning that way, but it's also a good point. Maybe somebody says like you. I don't know. Let's see. You know the story of the Chavetz Chaim. They tell a story. They found that a thief stole his coat. So they saw him running after the thief, and he kept saying, "I'm mochel." It's famous. So it's similar to that. It's similar to that
So
story.
there's a story, you know.
It could be that this is where the Chavetz Chaim got it from.
Everybody hereditary.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Lady was
And the carpenter, right, yeah.
So the hereditary gun knocks on the Rav's door 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
The Rav comes down, he's asleep,
Yeah.
his careful on. What do you want? He says, found this wallet. It's got 200 rubles. Rav kisses him. Oh, you did you come in? Sit down. Let me run up to the bedroom. I'll bring down some schnapps. We'll drink a lot.
Yeah.
The Rav comes back down. The breakfast is empty. Well, the silver is so he raises empty.
And then he returns it. That'd be nice.
This is a mitzvah.
Transfer that also.
The fact is, in general, Yush is not a good place to be. Yush means we stop trying.
They have a new grant. Great. Mazel tov. Grandson. Yes.